As I said before, Spektra Games co-founder and CEO Kadir Danışman and level designer Doğancan Cedetaş will be with us. They will tell us about their stories and their approach, and to show us that Turkish industry is not only about hyper-casual and casual, and there are other ways of establishing a sustainable studio. You can begin whenever you feel ready.
İyiyim şu an alabiliyorsun.
Deneme.
Okey sanırım. Önce bir kendimizi tanıtmakla başlayalım.
Let's begin by introducing ourselves. My name is Kadir Danışman. I'm 22 years old as of yesterday. Since 14, I've been developing games. I started in 2014 in school, in high school and in university. I was developing simulation and racing games, and it was a hobby. Then, as we will go into details later, we had a merging point with our current partners. We established Spektra Games. I'm now the CEO of Spektra Games. We do mobile racing in our games. My name is Doğancan Cedetaş. I'm 27. For 9 months now, I've been designing levels at Spektra. I'm sometimes interested in game design as well. I've been in the industry for 2 months, so it's new. Before that, I was in biology or I was a cook. I was in different positions. But with the pandemic, I shifted to the gaming side, and we met with Spektra. Let me talk about this topic. It may seem very assertive. Our goal is, as you know, the gaming industry in Turkey is about casual and hyper casual. We're very good in those areas, and we are getting investment, which is helping the Turkish gaming industry at a global scale. But when it comes to mid-core or hardcore games, we are not as popular as we are in hyper casual and casual. So as there aren't as many developers or studios, so we wanted to do something different without investment by self-publishing. We're developing mid-core games. We have 30 to 40 million downloads so far. By developing in mid-core and by self-publishing, it's possible to make progress. We want to bring in this perspective. I would like to talk about the story of Spektra. It's going well now, but how did it start and how did we come to this level? This story started when I was 14 with our CTO and founding partner. We have known each other for a long time. We met on a group about game development and we did projects ourselves, simulation games, racing games, or freelance projects. We continued working on these throughout high school and as a hobby. At university, I had a couple of professional experiences. The CTO, likewise, was the lead developer of a different company, but we were in communication. We were trying out different games. By the end of 2019, with Doğancan, our other founding partner, we developed a game together. It was done only to pay the bills. We wanted to just try ourselves. The graphics quality was very well, playing was quite well. It was a good time because we started right before the pandemic. We developed the game and self-published. And as we were losing hope, Google placed it in Discover. And with the help of the pandemic, we saw an increase in numbers. We saw some progress. Our current CPO was the lead developer at the time. We started remotely. It's a car parking game, but people are asking for multiplayer properties. So we wanted to do that. And we tried that. You see the visuals of our current game. So we developed a multiplayer version of the game, and we tried to do everything correct. In a team of 3 to 4 people, in 4 months, we developed the game, which again was around the end of the pandemic. We published it, and it went as expected. There were ups and downs, but it came to the level we wanted ultimately. Currently, there are more than 20 million downloads. As we were doing these, as Spektra Games, there were millions of players playing our game, and it was a great community because it was a mid-core game. And they were contacting us on social media. We were receiving a lot of feedback and comments. They like the game, but they want extra features, or they have recommendations. Python, it's an open world multiplayer game. It's called Python, but it's a driving game. So we started expanding our team. We started in September by renting an office. We expanded to 10 people in the month of March. And we are working on the recent game, as you saw the visuals. And 2 months ago, I guess it was in October, we published the game. It is going well now. It's going as expected. For a year now, how did we run the company? How did we assume the risk? We can go into details of that. Maybe actually we should talk about those. We did these, we got great downloads, and everything goes as planned. There are different hyper-casual studios working in different models, like profit-based, for instance. They establish a sustainable structure, but our approach was a bit different. Our starting approach, we knew that we couldn't make as much money as hyper-casual, but we wanted at least a revenue that could sustain us for a few years, and we wanted to grow gradually. Our first game was based on this. We started making some revenues. There's our mid-core games. 3 or 4 years or 8 or 9 years, they can be developed and bring in revenues. We wanted to enter this way, and with the know-how and with the revenue that we gather, we did the PMM2 and we expanded the team. There are different metrics. Doing these games with a few people, of course, they weren't as high quality as we do now, but they were responding to the needs of the market. We try to analyze what they're doing right or wrong, and we look at the feedback that they get in their games. We play the games ourselves, and we also take into consideration the feedback of our games. And we try to come up with the game that the players want to see. On the self-published side, there are different dimensions, but a simple optimization, of course, not only about the visuals of the store, but the game should be good. Certain key metrics should be about certain levels, and Google is paying attention to this as it's publishing, as it's releasing games. There are no clear algorithms, but times are important. So your game should be good, and the gamers who download should like your game and play the game, and this brings you higher in the score league. How did we take the risk? Not like hyper casual or casual, but in this, the organic traffic is higher. What do I mean by this? People are searching, or they download it on Discover, not through ads, but with their own search or their own finding. Because of people's demands, this organic download was very high.
Yani çok büyük UA yapan, UA kampanyaları yapan yarış oyunlarının bile %70-80'i aslında organik downloadlar oluyor.
Even games with very big membership campaigns, they have 70 or 80% organic downloads. If you're able to develop and publish such a game, and if you did certain things correct, thanks to organic downloads, you can come to a certain level. Of course, this has to be for the beginning, because you cannot just rely on that in establishing a new company. For that reason, UA is also important by starting organic. We try to establish a sustainable structure based on UA, setting the right genre and developing the game according to its requirements. Even if it doesn't bring you great revenues, it can at least bring you sustainable revenues, and we wanted to base our approach on that and grow out of there. This was the approach of Spektra Games. We continue Python master developments. It was meeting our needs. There are many features. It feels like a Python game, but it is like a mobile GTA. There are different characters. There is a 36,000 square kilometer game, a map. I'll talk about some optimization problems later. We said mid-core many times, but what's a mid-core and how does it differ from other types of games? Mid-cores are, as you can see from the name, they're not hyper-casual or casual or hardcore. They're in the middle. They're more about multiplayer focused. They have long-term support. They appeal to hyper-casual and hardcore players at the same time. This is how we can define mid-core. It's where features are important and certain skills are required. When you're playing a casual or hyper-casual, you can play it daily. You don't need many specific skills. On our game, there are 10 to 15 buttons. You're driving a car and we're trying to present a realistic experience. It requires some skill. It's both niche and a broad mass audience, because you have players from both sides, casual and hardcore. You have to bring them together. That's our challenge. Yes, one of the challenges of developing mid-core is that you should be able to access both sides equally. And as you try to do that, you notice that you're unable to access anybody. In some games, for instance, when you're designing levels, it's either too easy or too hard. Optimization, sometimes we have terrible visuals, or sometimes the size is doubled. Download size is very important in mid-core games. So by trial and error, by testing, we, on the test side, there are such balances. For instance, when we set out for Python Master 2, there was a lot of demand. We wanted to set the players free. They should be able to do everything they want, and there should be some social features, but you're developing it for mobile devices. Rather than being a benchmark game, we wanted a game that everyone could play, even on iPhone 7. For instance, there's a RAM problem here in mobile devices. RAM starts at 2 gigabytes. So you have to be able to keep it at that RAM. There are cars, traffic, sets. We want the visual quality to be high. So we were going to have a lot of challenges. So we wanted to see whether we were able to present it to users. We developed a technique called chunks. We divide the map into chunks. by erasing from the RAM only the area where the user is rendered. We developed such a system, and with this system, it's a big map, but this way we can even make the map bigger without any additional challenge. With equal distances in RAM usage, we are able to create it without any extra difficulties. There are such difficult aspects. Why is midcore not developed, or why is it not preferred this much in Turkey? Establishing a sustainable structure is not very easy. They say developer cost is high, so your first game should not be midcore, they say. Start with casual, and after you have revenue, start to midcore, they say, which is the right approach. Actually, yes, the team has to be big, the cost is high. We were able to pull this off with 10 people, but we did have terrible difficulties. People have to have multiple facets. Doğancan is a level designer, but in QA or in game design, for instance, our loan modelist is dealing with car design as well. We were able to do this by 10 people only because the team was very enthusiastic and everyone was gamers. They were genuinely interested in the game that they were developing, and they were trying to add everything. For instance, you go on weekends to a cafe and develop a level of your own evolution. For instance, on smoking break, we talk about gaming design, we come up with new ideas. Sometimes they do shape the future of the game. So in this regard, the team is very important. When we were talking, for instance, we say, should we do a new car? Should we do this? Should we do that? Or should we do everything from scratch? We sometimes have the courage to do such things because everybody is so willing. We like cars. It's not necessary to like cars, but liking the community and seeing their feedback is amazing. For instance, on Discord, we see what people are saying on Discord. So it is great. Of course, you do a game, you publish it, and you make money. That's not only about it, there's a spiritual aspect of it as well, because you're in direct communication with them. On Discord with the test group, we did many tests, maybe better than beta testers, because these gamers are really, they like the game, they have waited for months, and they're eager to test the game they're expecting. So this is very helpful to us. Sometimes they're very harsh, but it is helpful.
Bu bahsettiğimiz arada işte bu hem o kitleye hitap etme konusu, yani o hem casual tarafından hem hardcore tarafından kullanıcıları elde edebilmek.
Addressing that group and providing the gameplay that the users desire. We have some challenges there because this game, I mean, we worked on it for years because it's a multiplayer game and its infrastructure had to be really solid. So developing it to a certain extent, and then we want to maintain it after developing it to a certain extent. That's why we needed an infrastructure. And for this, we have talks in the background, we have races, there is a lot of content here. So people can cheat, and that's why we need to deal with all these kinds of challenges. We worked on them a lot. And after we clarified all these issues, we they realized that we were able to build on the game. It was a very long process for us, and we were quite tired at certain paces, but still it was worth it because we are reaping fruits of it right now. I don't know how much of it you can see from the screen, but we very much appreciate it. All of them have been updated already. Well, we are continuing to build on it right now. So we have further enhancements, further developments, and mid-core games, long-term support and long-term and sustainability of that is quite important. This game or another race, you can um, generate profits for 8 or 7 years, but every game that you develop adds to the strength of your existing position, and your position on the store is also strengthened because once we develop a new game, we have many scores. We have a good store, so we can receive the organic traffic as well. So these are all the advantages that we enjoy, and this is a development that continues to grow and that continues. Although we've had a lot of challenges, it was quite a pleasurable period for us as well. And it's not really possible to satisfy everybody. Optimization is important here, and um, we are talking about other challenges that we addressed, but there were still people who were dissatisfied, and sometimes when we Google it, even see some textile machines, but I think that we were able to address it, and I'm sure that this person even who is claiming to be using a smartphone is able to use our game, play our game for the past 2 or 3 years. There are people who've been following and monitoring our games, and at the very end of it, their devices do not really support our games. So there is strong addiction, let's say, strong loyalty. And in these aspects, we are very lucky. And here, I'd also like to say something. These aspects also we can do it. And yes, you need to be courageous a little bit.
Şeyden bahsediyorduk. Yani Midcore tarafının aslında
So,
riskli olması ve buraya
Midcore, it being risky and making a venture into it, but it is possible. That's what we're trying to emphasize. And there are other companies who made it. And I think it's good to see a rising number of them in these kinds of companies, because when we look at the landscape in Turkey, we are enjoying a very good position. We've proven ourselves already, but from that point onwards, we need to focus on hyper casual. Oh, it is very difficult. There are incredible challenges there as well, unbelievable challenges, and being able to develop games with special teams, it is also signifying another level of know-how. But not everybody has to deal with these kinds of challenges. Not everybody has to venture into that. It is important to be focusing on the genre, but it is good that people are using the games developed in Turkey, and if we want these numbers to go up. In this case, it is something that's doable. It is something that we can do, and we can really do it because developing a game, it's basically the same. Hyper casual, you can do it with a team. I think it's quite easy to do it with another team. So, and we know car games, for example, and we're developing them. And as we are developing new games, we we may have a desire to develop other kinds of games. This racing games, we develop them, but we need the capability of developing other types of games as well. So I think that's how I can summarize it. And if there are other questions, we can get them. What we paid attention to while developing games. What did we work on? If we were to talk about our own games, the quality of graphics is quite important, gameplay. And there is a challenge about gameplays. Because we don't want to be very difficult. So it always need to quite realistic. And for example, breaking, so you're climbing the kitten and you wouldn't really stop right on the spot, but would like it to stop. Of reality is not satisfactory for the user. So we make kinds of arrangements for the user for the year. And we have over 300,000 users on a daily basis. And when we introduce big changes, for example, the rewards that the users win on the prices for multiplayers, we have certain features. So we introduce rotation trading. So we have unbelievable impact. And because as the people are putting some significant changes are going to be protecting users. So without taking huge risks, we have some tests and we need to see by taking the back account because there is always a trade-off. The features that you think will add to the design of the game and to not having them at the launch of the game will make impact when you introduce them at a later stage, and maybe those users will buy them, but maybe new users will welcome it more or maybe further motivated by the new features. So these are the trade-offs that we are working a lot. And from the design aspect, game, they're not something that you spend your time at. These are basically pieces of art that make you feel good about yourself. So as we are working level design, and to give an example from levels, well, escaping from the police, or as the traffic is flowing toward you, to certain thing, or a scene involving a car crash. These are different levels, and rather than it playing, I'm trying to spend as much as possible. And I would like to provide certain emotions to users, and I think it has a huge impact in the success of the game. And for game design, without it destroying itself, we try to add new designs. And because say for a game, we can't be we can be only maneuver to a certain extent. As we are talking about game design, there is a problem. Well, the game design of our games, they're quite different. Well, game economy, for example. Well, we have designers and we have very good candidates, that's for sure. But game economics, the number of people who has a knowledge of game design, it's really low. And to be focused on that, let's not really stick to a certain field. Let's make sure that people develop themselves in very specific areas. So the more diverse we have in terms of games, it is better for us. So game design, you may add new features to it, but without game economics, it doesn't really mean. And we took a risk that multiplayer people should be able to sell their cars to different users. So people should be able to make their cars and they put it on sale. This was a feature that we introduced. The game published, and it was such a popular feature. And it was like 20 people trying to sell their cars on it. So uh, Turkish people had their own ways to sell it. And so there are many basic features, but at the same time, they're selling cars. So that feature had been proceeding very well, but it was something that had an impact on the economy. Well, upgrade to the customization cost, was it higher, or is it that user is selling it at a lower price, or that really destroying the game economics? So these were all the questions that we focused on, and we made quite detailed tests on the games, and we realized something. It was something that exists actually. So people put their cars on sales. What I mean by that is that you put your car on sale, and people come in, and four people click on it at the same time. So and they withdraw their desire. So in a way, this car is sold for 4 times. So, and that money is sent to the seller from 4 different channels. So this has a impact on the game economics. And many gamers wanted to abandon the game altogether, drop the game altogether. It was a problem for us, but we addressed it, we resolved it. So premium cars and market for it, it is not going well, they say. So we're trying to do it. So it's quite pleasurable, it's fun, but these are all quite risky areas as well. So a future that you'd welcome or appreciate a lot, well, destroy your game as well. And we have another level. It is a difficult level, by the way, but when you understand the mechanics of it, it is uh, something. Well, this is about giving prices, and then we reduced the price of the game by 50%, and people didn't appreciate it. So we made whatever we could do. We did whatever we could do. So the level we reduced it, but the prices we made changes. So there are many aspects that you need to consider separately. And back to the gist of the message. Yes, the team and the number of teams are important, but these are the multiplayer features and the capabilities that enable you to respond to it remotely. For example, car sales, we solved this problem remotely. We didn't really need to introduce any updates, so we worked remotely and we solved the problem. So having these infrastructures set up and dealing with the costs, it is important as well. TPO or senior developer that we're working with, whoever you're working with, their background knowledge is quite important, because whatever you're doing at multiplayer, every data exchange that you have at multiplayer, there are codes, and when you exceed them, you may face certain costs as well. The number of users at multiplayer, you appreciate it, you enjoy it, but costs may be quite high. So you need to have good control over it. So data transmission frequencies, you need to have a control on it as well, because otherwise you may end up seeing that your costs are higher than the profits that you generate. And looking at my previous experiences and the importance that I attached to it, we made certain changes here. For example, users on different ends of the game, them exchange data, it doesn't make sense, because they don't know each other and they don't see each other, so they don't really need to know the data that belongs to the other. And we check it as well. We keep a control on it. We keep control on it, and we pay attention to it, and we have certain limitations. And the data that we always uh, make sure that the costs are lower. So these are quite critical points. Well, if you don't really take this into consideration, you may face severe consequences. On the other hand, well, our game ad revenue, and we also focus on the premium side of it. And here, in-app purchase and the special features and the capability of selling those cars within the game, they need to have certain values. These cars should definitely be valuable so that people pay for them. But sometimes gamers find a trick. They find their ways, and if multiplayer other users may see it, and this may also mean severe consequences for us as well. So our game is not always offline. There is a server side as well, and we check everything on the server. And well, these are the topics that we need to take into consideration. So let's also talk about the positive sides of it, because we've always focused on the negative sides. By the way, I'd like to jump in because we have a question on the phone. Are you planning to release your games on PCs and other platforms? Well, this is not something that we don't really think about, but here is the thing, the game that you develop for mobile, it is more mobile oriented, and it makes it more difficult for us to release it on PC. And the car games on PC, they're quite different than mobile games. There are very, very different structures we have. Can we do it? Yes, we can work on the graphic quality on it, but the cross-platform features are important when we look at the recent trends. But maybe at one point we may think about it, but it is a bit difficult right now. If we develop a new racing game, it's quite possible, but it's a bit difficult. Are there any other questions? Shall we talk about the team? This is a team of 10 people, and in terms of experience, it's 50-50, I guess. We have very experienced people from the industry, like Kadir Danışman, but we also had other people who worked in other industries. They may have worked on models, but they never had experience with game modeling. So this is a composition of our team, but I planned of everything. And since March, we've been working with the same team, although we had some challenges. This is the team that we work with. For example, the team and the members of the team, they're quite interested in cars, and with their own interest, they follow up on the news regarding all the cars, and then going back to the team, coming up with suggestions. And it is with their own desire that it is basically them taking the initiative, and we think it may be a bit reasonable, and then we try it, and we see great improvements. So such support contributes a lot to us. So things that come up during our discussions that we implement sometimes, and this is something that we implement, and we see great benefits of that. And since March, it is the same team, and the synergy that we have among one another, and the internal communication. There are huge disadvantages of being a team of 10 people, because the higher the number of people there are a higher number of variables as well, and it is difficult to check it and control it. But we are now capable of taking quick action, and we have good communication as well, and it brings us to better levels. And mid-core game development, it is basically long-term sustainability. This is one advantage of mid-core game development, and there are no risks whatsoever about being reliant on a publisher. and you don't really have a contract with them. So in the long term, you can work on it. So the sustainability is something that allows you to see what's coming up next. And it is quite
Yani hypercasual tarafında çalışan çok fazla sirkülasyon olduğu için
we have huge turnover of employees,
insanların
and on in our field, we see how people develop themselves. So I'm quite different from when I first started working on this field. And as it is only a single game that we're working on, we are feeling quite familiar with the community, and people give us the feeling that they appreciate us. Well, if we don't respond to their questions, they even communicate, reach out to us on Instagram. So they tag us.
Yok mu? Okey, pardon.
Is there any other question?
Ya orada inanılmaz bir iletişim var. Biraz rahatsız da oluyoruz bazen. Çünkü
Great
hani ben de bir yandan
level of communication.
Yani giriyorum, insanlar böyle bir anda bir şeyler oluyor. Cevap vermek gerekiyor. Veya insanları hype tutmak
We need
gerekiyor.
to respond to people's
vesaire gibi.
questions, and we need to convince people that will solve their problems. So this is quite an important issue for us. And this is the importance of the community. This is quite important, and we have great community here as well. So if we want to do anything on the web, we have the games and we have the community. This great freedom, and this is something that we can use. Not saying it for the sake of it, but community, it is quite important. So that's why we see the benefits of that.
Başka faydasından bahsedecek olursak Doğancan'ın dediği gibi gelişme konusu.
Another advantage is so at one point we couldn't find a game designer, so we had to learn about game economies, and that was really useful for us. So by doing R&D constantly, we are asking ourselves, how can we do this better? And we said, how can we do this real time? How can we make our graphics more realistic? How can we do more realistic collisions? And one of the advantages is that it might look disadvantageous, but integrating a car takes a long time. There are different components. You have to set the character right, then you have to set the balance of the car. And for that, and for the level as well, we are creating tools, editor tools, and documentation of those. It makes us able to generate a know-how. And so when you're designing a level, you check the documentation and you use the editor level. And even if you design 1,000 different levels, there's nothing different about optimization since you use the editor tools we create. So we are pushing ourselves, we are growing ourselves, and we are by pushing ourselves, we can do things ourselves. So Spektra isn't taking jobs from left and right. We're not like working. We like what we do. We love what we do. Because of that, our work really shows itself in our products. We are working as if we don't earn anything from our games. So if you're not happy where you work, things aren't going as well as it does here. Are there any questions in Zoom, or there aren't any questions in Zoom? There are 4 more minutes. You can sum up if you want. We talked about a lot of things. Our intention was to show that mid-core was possible, and we are lucky to be here. We took a risk and we managed to be successful in our area. When you're a student, it's easier to experience it yourself. You can make games and publish them. But when you're 25, when you're 30 years old, you have life pestering you, so you can't really commit yourself to developing games. So that's why when you have the chance to try, you should try yourself. You should take part in small companies, maybe consisting of 5 people, 10 people, and that will really contribute to your experience, and later on it will help you to get to places. So when we created our company, well, when I started the company, I was 19 years old, and we were developing indie games. From indie development, we changed our business plan to a serious model. We started to compete with racing developers, mobile game developers, and to be able to come to this point has changed our goals, our vision, and so we are aware of the potential here, the opportunity is here, and we are trying to benefit from this. I hope this speech has been beneficial to you. We have open positions in our company, and there will be more soon. So if anybody is interested, you can come talk with us. Thank you very much.